Greetings, we're back here at Ariana's restaurant for part 2 of our salmon. Today we're going to talk about cooking it. Again, as I mentioned, we divided the salmon up. We have the nice smaller, thinner piece which has a higher fat. Obviously that's going to cook faster. We're going to just cut a piece off like that. And then we're going to take a nice portion of this guy and cut him off. This being thicker will cook a little faster. And I'm just going to show you a couple different things with the salmon cooking. First and foremost, fish cooks faster, okay? That's the biggest thing, and so many people talk to me about, I can't cook fish, I always overcook it. Fish just lives in the ocean, so it's buoyant, just physics, it moves around, it has a buoyancy to it. Your land animals, beef, pork, lamb, they're on land, they deal with gravity, so they're much denser. So that's the first and most important thing, that heat penetrates through the flesh of fish much faster. Seasoning, we've always talked about in the past. Salt, we do salt everything a little bit. Here again, we're using our kosher salt. I'd like to use a little bit of, we have our little bread dipping spice mix. It's like an Italian type mix. I like to use that on my fish. We do that for fish and poultry. This has got parsley, basil, oregano, a little bit of garlic, a little bit of onion in there with that. And then we have a couple options. One thing we like to do is a panko breadcrumb. Okay, so obviously gluten. So if you want to stay away from gluten, don't even worry about this. But panko adds a nice texture. We always talk about in cooking texture. Crunch is very much a part of it. And so getting a little texture on a piece of fish really adds to the whole experience of eating it. We're going to cook this piece without the panko breadcrumb because I'm going to show you 2 different techniques, and then what we're going to do is just, well, similar techniques. Here we're going to put some fresh parsley on top of this one. Here I'm just going to take the fish and press it into the panko and just let it come out, and it's going to be a very, very light crust. I mean, you see that there's not much on there at all. We're not looking for much. I don't believe in breading fish. You want to taste the fish. We have high quality salmon here, so we want to taste the salmon. This just gives it a little bit extra, again, a little crunch. In the past, people would talk about putting your fish or proteins in flour. Never do that, please. Flour just takes too long to cook out the pastiness to it. It's heavy, it's dense. Just please do not use flour. Okay, so tape pans are hot right here. It's Saturday, we're getting ready for service tonight. This is one thing I love. Here in the restaurant, we're all about sauces. And here we have our demi-glaze going. This is, I mean, for my classical French cooking, we always have demi-glaze on house. We love it, it's awesome. And it really makes a big difference with the sauces, but that'll be another day. And sauces someday will be coming as well. Pans are already preheated, so I'll tell you a little bit of our oil. We don't need a lot in here. With the one with the, just without the panko, I'm gonna start first. We put it seasoned side down. And as we talked about, well, we haven't done much of this. The most important thing is you want the pan hot. You want the pan hot so you hear noise when the protein goes into the pan. That way you know you're gonna get a sear, you're gonna get some coloring, but also it's not gonna stick. If your food sticks, it's not the pan's fault. You either didn't clean it well or you didn't heat it well. Otherwise, you're all set. So, you want to hear some noise, you're probably not going to hear it there, but I got a sizzle going on, I can hear it, that's what I want, that's what I'm looking for. You put the protein in there and you leave it there. Just let it sit there, don't need to shake the pan, don't need to do anything with it, just let it sit. It's probably going to take a good minute to get that nice sear on the outside of the salmon. After that, we'll turn it over, we'll get it in the oven, and that's the technique I want to show you, how you finish something. The biggest key here is we're cooking on the stove top, so we have direct heat. With this fish being thinner, we're probably going to be able to finish it right on the stove top. With that, I put a little bit more oil in here too, more oil than that one, because the panko breadcrumb will absorb a little bit of oil. So we're sort of pan frying this piece with the light breading. It's only breaded on one side as well. We do not bread it on the other side. There again, I was hearing some sizzling, some noise. I'm starting to see the little piece of bread come off of it, start to sort of bubble up, so I know that the pan is hot enough. So, I'm going to smile here for a minute. I got to work on my smiling. But we're going to, with this salmon, again, we leave it alone. I'm not going to touch it. Fish spatula is great. You want to be gentle with your fish. I want to, again, get the crust on there. So when I'm talking about direct heat versus indirect heat, direct heat right here, we have the pan getting hot. The fish is cooking specifically where it's touching the pan. Direct heat on the outside of it. With a piece of fish this thick, if I kept it on the pan, on the direct heat, I would burn the outside before the inside is completely cooked. So we are going to, in a minute, flip this over. I'm going to add a little bit of wine to it, and we're going to put a lid on it, and we're going to finish it in the oven. By finishing it in the oven, it's going to cook faster, and this is where we get indirect heat. Now the pan is off the direct heat, the fire underneath, it's going into the oven where the air is circulating all around it. So that's what we call indirect heat. So the fish will continue cooking, but now it's going to cook much more evenly instead of just getting all the heat penetrating from one side. The other thing you want to do, when do you know when it's ready? I mean, I do this a lot. It's just from timing. I feel right now that I have this piece in there for a while, no sticking whatsoever, and we've got a nice crust on there. So that's really important too. Visualists, we talk about especially in restaurants, we want things to smell good, we want them to look good, and then they taste good. So here I have it turned over, so I'm going to put some wine into this. It is going to splatter some, and then quickly I put a lid on it, and I'm going to put it in the oven. And we've got maybe 3 minutes at the most, and that piece of salmon will be done. Here, we now have this guy. I'm going to turn him over, being much thinner. Now, I don't, again, we talk about people shake the pan. We don't want to do that, but I'm starting to see some browning on the outside. And there again, we've got a really nice look, a really nice crust to that. Now, with this piece here, it's still a little uneven, but this becomes really a delicacy because it's going to be, because of the fat content in there, it's still going to be nice and crispy and warm, almost like a nice little extra crunch to the dish. Here, 2 things. One, we don't bread on both sides because we want to enjoy the fish. But also, when you sauce a plate, usually with fish, we're going to put some sauce on a plate. Again, I apologize, no sauce today. We'll come with that because we're focusing on cooking techniques. But if you have bread on the bottom of the fish, you put it into a sauce. The sauce is going to absorb the bread. It's going to get gummy and doughy, and it's going to become unpleasant. So you don't want to do that. Here again, another way to do it is just I will blaze the pan again. I'm doing it off the heat, and I'm going to turn the fire off. And let it just sit there. Yes, it's going to pop in there. Obviously, water and oil don't like each other too much. One of the things I do know as well, this is an industrial kitchen, so I don't mind making a mess because we can clean it up. Obviously, it might be a little messy at your house. If you have, again, with this, you put a spray of a little bit of a splatter guard over the top. What I do not want to do with this is put a lid on it because I have the crust from the panko. So that's the difference of the 2 techniques here. We have a crust, we want that panko to stay sort of that little crunchy texture to it. If I put a lid over it, the steam is going to take that away because the moisture will get back to the crust we create. So we do not cover the fish when we're doing it with panko. If we put panko on that piece that's in the oven, we would have done the same thing but not put the lid on it. Being a thicker piece, you can still cook it if the piece is thicker, but you do not want to cover it. Fish, again, I mentioned cooked very quickly, gently touching on here. I can tell that it's just about done. We also talk about with food, passive cooking. This fish is still cooking right now. There's still there's still air, heat, convection, that was the word I'm looking for. So heat is still moving through the fish, so it's still cooking as it cools down. So it's what we call, in roasting and meats, you hear about a resting period. So passive cooking, this will slow down very quickly, but the fish will be finished in just about a minute or so. And then I'll show you, we'll open it up and we'll taste it. The other piece of salmon right now should be very close to being done. Do remember the lid is hot. And even if we have some of these pans with these plastic handles, they are hot as well. So just remember that. Here again, pushing the texture down. This is a little bit softer. And so this is where we come to with your preference. This is high quality salmon. Salmon can be enjoyed medium rare, medium or rare. I tend to, as a restaurant, the only fish I serve rare is tuna unless asked otherwise. I like to have my fish just cooked through, still being nice and moist. So this piece right here, I'm going to just kind of flake them apart here in the center. And we have a little bit, just slightly undercooked left, okay? But that will continue to be cooking a little bit more. Could have left it another minute, but this is just where you have a beautiful, moist, fresh piece of fish. As I mentioned, this is cooked through, but this has got a nice little crunchy texture that I'm going to snack on once we're done. This piece here, again, pushing down on it, we can see that it's a little bit softer. I'm going to let it sit for about a minute or 2. If you do want it cooked through more for yourself, just leave it in the oven for another minute. We mentioned about as proteins cook, they firm up, just like making a fish, it gets firmer and firmer. So that's what we do by pushing on it. All proteins will start off soft and can become firm. So that is pretty much it for today. Cooking with or without. All seafood, you can do this. Pieces of fish, swordfish, tuna, snapper, any type of fish. Mostly start off in a hot pan, sear it nicely, and then finish off in the oven with some steam. Steam's a very fast method of cooking, and you'll keep it nice and moist, or on a thinner piece, keep it on the stovetop. Thank you very much for watching and listening. We definitely going to do more videos. We'll touch on sauces, touch on stock making. There's lots to do, so there's many more to come. Thank you all and be well.